My name is Logan, a 23-year-old history student living in the quaint town of Cedar Valley. It's a small town, nestled amongst rolling hills and lush forests, where everyone knows each other and life moves at its own gentle pace. For me, Cedar Valley is more than just a place. It's where my roots are. It's the scent of apple pie cooling on the porch, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot, and the sound of the river flowing quietly past my family home. My grandfather, Robert Carter, is a retired farmer and a man of great wisdom. At age 82, his presence is as comforting as the warm fires we shared tales beside during chilly winter nights. He lives alone now in the house where he and my late grandmother, who passed away 5 years ago, spent their lives together. His kind eyes, always twinkling with untold stories, and steady hands tell of a life full of hard work and love. Growing up, Grandpa Robert was my hero. His stoic demeanor, paired with an unwavering sense of justice, taught me more about integrity than any book ever could. Memories of us fishing in the creek or building wooden birdhouses fill my heart with warmth. He had a way of making ordinary moments feel like grand adventures. But not everyone appreciates Grandpa's charm. My father, Thomas Carter, struggles to see eye to eye with him. Dad runs a successful business in a bustling city far removed from our serene town. The corporate world has walled him off with impenetrable schedules and endless demands. My mother, ever the peacekeeper, juggles her role between lover and mediator. For years, the relationship between Dad and Grandpa has been strained. Dad calls him set in his ways, while Grandpa chooses a life removed from the chaos, living simply yet abundantly. He spends his days tending a garden full of lilies, a memory of Grandma, and driving his old blue pickup around town. This past fall, something happened that would forever change the dynamics of our family. I was deep into my studies when Grandpa called me one evening with an unusual request. "Logan," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and weariness, "I need you to come by this weekend. I have something important to discuss with you." My mind raced with curiosity. Grandpa was not one to make such requests lightly. Was he finally going to share the family secret we often speculated about over campfires? Or perhaps it was a simple matter, like fixing his squeaky screen door. Whatever it was, I knew it had to be significant for him to ask. Eagerly, I packed my bag and made the trip to Cedar Valley. The landscape was dotted with the golden glow of fall, a peaceful drive that gave me time to reflect on Grandpa's words. As I arrived at his doorstep, I was welcomed by his familiar smile. Despite the years etched onto his face, his eyes sparked with a youthful glow. He led me into the cozy embrace of his living room, where the smell of pumpkin spice danced in the air. On the coffee table lay an old leather journal, its pages yellowed with age. "Logan," Grandpa began, settling into his favorite armchair, "I've been waiting a long time to share something with you." His words hung in the air, carrying a weight I couldn't yet comprehend. I leaned forward, eager to hear what he had to say. As he spoke, his voice seemed to echo with the authority and strength of 100 past adventures, stretching far beyond Cedar Valley's limits. He recounted tales of his younger days, adventures and misadventures, complete with daring exploits and poignant reflections. As he unfurled his story, his eyes glimmered with a mix of pride and hesitance, a side of him seldom seen. The tales of unyielding courage and generosity were interspersed with threads of betrayal, a side of life he rarely shared, even with those closest to him. There was a hidden battle behind those stories, one that involved his past, my father's upbringing, and the family's legacy. It was a tale of struggle and perseverance, of sacrifices and shadows that had stretched over the Carter family for generations. Grandpa Robert had borne these tales alone for too long, and now he chose to entrust them to me. "I want you to know about your inheritance," he revealed, his voice dropping to a whisper. The words felt heavy, loaded with a gravity that was almost tangible. It was more than just a monetary value or a piece of land. It was a legacy, a profound yet untold responsibility waiting to be fulfilled. As he continued, I realized this story was more than a recount of past events. It was a call to action, a challenge to carry the family's torch. It was a story of redemption, resilience, and the power of forgiveness. In the days that followed, I felt the weight of the responsibility Grandpa had passed to me. The family secrets were now intertwined with my everyday thoughts, shaping a new chapter in our story. The quiet town of Cedar Valley, once merely a backdrop to my childhood, had now become the stage for a narrative as old as time itself. These revelations left me restless, filled with a mixture of emotions. Anger, sadness, but ultimately, purpose. I knew I had to bridge the gap between my father and Grandpa, to mend the threads that had frayed between them. This was my chance to honor the legacy Grandpa entrusted to me, a chance to rewrite the world that had once been fragmented by misunderstanding and pain. Stay tuned for the next chapter in our journey of redemption and discovery. And don't forget, if you love stories of courage and redemption, like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Glory, where the echoes of the past create stories for a brighter tomorrow. The winds of change were blowing through my life as I returned to university, my mind occupied with thoughts of Grandpa and the family secrets he had unveiled. Cedar Valley felt a world away, replaced by the hustle and bustle of campus life. Yet, Grandpa's words lingered with me like a gentle whisper in the back of my mind. As I attended lectures and buried myself in textbooks, his stories played in the background of my thoughts, reminding me of the path that lay ahead. With midterms approaching, I was swamped with assignments and projects, yet something in me shifted. Previously mundane tasks felt charged with purpose, as if they were stepping stones leading to a decision that would soon change everything. One chilly evening, while I was working late in the library, my phone buzzed with an unexpected call from Dad. It was strange hearing from him out of the blue, especially knowing the tension between him and Grandpa. I hesitated before answering, unsure of what to expect. "Logan," Dad's voice came across the line, unusually strained. "I need to talk to you about something important. Can we meet for dinner soon?" His tone was softer than usual, almost pleading, a stark contrast to his usual brusque manner of speaking. I agreed, curious about his sudden urgency, and we made plans to meet at a cafe near my university. As I walked to the meeting, my mind was filled with a mix of apprehension and hope. Perhaps this was an opportunity to discuss the rift with Grandpa, to bring light to the shadows that have long darkened our family. When I arrived, Dad was seated at a corner table. His usual composed demeanor was slightly frayed. I noticed the faint lines of exhaustion etched into his face, as if he had aged overnight. He greeted me with a nod, signaling for the waitress to bring coffee. "Logan," he started, fumbling with his words, "there's something you need to know about the family estate, about what's at stake." His words echoed those of Grandpa's, but there was a distinct difference. Whereas Grandpa's stories were filled with a hope of reconciliation, Dad's sounded like a warning. "Dad," I interrupted, "I spoke to Grandpa last weekend. He told me about our family's past, the legacy he wants to pass on." I paused, watching a flicker of surprise pass over his face. "Did he now?" Dad muttered, an edge returning to his voice. "And did he also tell you about the terms, the family business dealings that have kept everything afloat all these years?" His words were laden with meanings I couldn't fully grasp. Although Grandpa had shared many family stories with me, he hadn't gone into specific details about business matters. "No," I admitted. He spoke of inheritance and responsibility, but not in specifics. I attempted to steer the conversation back towards reconciliation. "Dad, what's really going on between you and Grandpa? Why the distance?" He didn't answer immediately, choosing instead to focus on his coffee. Moments passed, and finally he sighed deeply. "Your Grandpa, for all his virtues, is stuck in the past, Logan. He sees the world the way it was, not the way it is." "But that doesn't explain why," I started, but he interrupted. "Listen, son, it's more complicated than you think. The family business is bound by certain agreements not just made by Grandpa, but by his father before him. It's a weight I've had to carry all these years." A heavy silence fell between us. I could sense his struggle, but a part of me still resisted the idea that it justified turning away from family. "So, what now?" I asked, meeting his gaze. "I don't know," Dad confessed, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "I just want to do what's right for you, for your future. I can't change the past, but together maybe." His words trailed off, leaving a proposal unspoken. I left the cafe that night with more questions than answers. The dynamics of my family were far more intricate than I'd realized, and I felt caught between two vastly different perspectives. As I walked back to my dorm, I couldn't shake the feeling of something monumental looming on the horizon. The weight of the legacy Grandpa had entrusted to me was now tangled with my father's struggles. The path was unclear, but I knew one thing. This wasn't just my story. It was a tale of my family, woven through generations, and it was up to me to navigate the twists and turns ahead. If you're as captivated by this journey as I am, don't forget to subscribe to Whispers of Glory. Join our community of storytellers and make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep listening for the whispers that guide us to where we're meant to be. Back at the dorm, sleep was elusive as I lay in bed, grappling with the threads of our family history. My heart and mind were as restless as the winds that howled outside my window, rustling the trees like ghosts whispering age-old secrets. Each time I closed my eyes, Grandpa's and Dad's voices echoed in my thoughts, reliving conversations that refused to be laid to rest. I tossed and turned, longing for clarity amidst the storm of emotions. A few days later, I received an unexpected email from a lawyer representing our family estate. The subject line alone made my heart skip a beat, regarding inheritance and estate matters. Bracing myself, I opened the email, scanning through a copious amount of legal jargon until a particular line caught my attention. In accordance with the Carter Family Trust, certain conditions must be met for the succession of the estate. The words were daunting, yet they held the promise of unveiling more of the mystery about my family's history and future. After attending the usual flurry of lectures, I decided to take a break and visit one of my university's peaceful garden spots to clear my head. Sitting on an old weathered bench near a tranquil koi pond, I pulled out my phone and reread the email, scrutinizing each word. Suddenly, my phone vibrated with a text from Caitlin, one of my closest friends since freshman year. We'd been through many ups and downs together, and she had been a steady support during this time of family turmoil. "Hey, Logan, up for some coffee?" she wrote, adding a couple of smiley faces at the end. I hesitated for a moment, weighed down by everything on my mind, but the thought of her easygoing company was tempting. Moments later, we met at the campus cafe, and Caitlin greeted me with her usual bright smile that had a way of lightening any mood. "You look like you've just discovered the secret to the universe," she teased, seeing the expression on my face. "Care to share?" I laughed, appreciating her humor. "Not quite the universal secret, but maybe a family one," I replied, recounting the adventure I had with Grandpa, the conversation with Dad, and the cryptic email from the family lawyer. Caitlin listened intently, nodding in understanding as I finished. "That's a lot to process," she said sympathetically. "It sounds like you're at a crossroads." "Exactly," I agreed. "I'm trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between Grandpa and Dad, but it's like navigating a maze with no end in sight." Caitlin pondered for a moment before offering her advice. "Maybe you don't need all the answers right now, you know? Sometimes it helps to break things down, take it step by step." Her words were comforting, grounded in the practicality I often lacked amidst my analytical tendencies. "You're right," I nodded. "I probably just need to take a breath, focus on what's directly in front of me." Inspired by Caitlin's advice, I felt a renewed determination to tackle the issue one piece at a time. I resolved to first address the email from the lawyer, seeking clarity about what exactly was entailed for the estate's succession. Over the next week, I corresponded with the lawyer, poring over documents and gaining a clearer understanding of the Carter Family Trust. It was clear that both Grandpa and Dad had their own interpretations of the estate's responsibilities, each burdened with legacy yet driven by differing visions for its preservation. With the newfound knowledge in hand, I planned another trip back to Cedar Valley. It felt crucial to return, to continue the conversation with Grandpa, the keeper of our family's history, and strategize the best way forward. As I prepared for the journey, my heart brimmed with anticipation and hope. I was embarking on a new chapter, one where I could harness the strength of the past, the lessons learned, and march forward into a future I hoped would reunite and heal our family. To our loyal listeners, I invite you to stay with us as we dive deeper into the journey of family, with all its complexities and joys. If these stories resonate with you, hit the subscribe button and join our community at Whispers of Glory. Discover the whispers of the past that carry the power to transform our tomorrows. The decision to visit Grandpa in Cedar Valley felt like the right one. Driving through the tree-lined roads was like a balm for my anxious mind. With each passing mile, the stress and confusion from the city slipped away, replaced by the familiar comfort of open skies and the rhythmic chirping of crickets at dusk. As I pulled into the gravel driveway of Grandpa's home, the memories of simpler times came flooding back. Tree-climbing adventures, the smell of fresh grass, and the stories that filled evenings under starlit skies. Grandpa was waiting for me on the porch, rocking gently in his aged wooden chair, waving with a warmth that felt like a welcome from the heart. "Logan, good to see you," he greeted, standing up to give me a pat on the back. We settled into our usual spots, mugs of steaming tea in hand, as the crickets began their evening chorus. "Grandpa," I began, diving straight into the reason for my visit. "I looked into the family estate matters, and there's so much more to it than I realized. I understand why you chose to have that talk with me." He nodded, his face shadowed with the weight of recollections. "I knew it wouldn't be easy, lad," he said, sighing quietly. "Our family has big shoes to fill, but they come with their own burdens. The key is how to carry them without stumbling." His words were simple, yet they carried the heft of experience. It had been a long road for him, reminding me that strength isn't just about braving the storms, but also about knowing when to seek shelter and gather oneself to face another day. "I also had a conversation with Dad," I continued, noticing the change in Grandpa's expression at the mention. "He seems caught between wanting to do right and his own fears of letting both you and me down." Grandpa's eyes softened, though his voice remained steady. "Thomas and I haven't always seen eye to eye. He was always chasing after something different, something that didn't align with my own dreams. But perhaps what he needs is understanding, not just from me, but from you too, Logan." A part of me resented Dad for not cherishing the time with Grandpa, who'd given so generously without reservation. But Grandpa's words reminded me of the complexities that they both faced. The silences that spoke louder than words. Life had a way of turning tables, reminding us of shared humanity rather than selective memories. "You think there's a way to mend things?" I asked, a thread of hope entwined with doubt. Grandpa gave a small nod. "It's never too late to try. Family means doing everything we can to keep the bridges strong, but also knowing when it's time to lay down new foundations." The idea of laying new foundations spoke volumes to me. For a moment, I pictured the Carter family, not as a tale of what was or what could have been, but as a testament to resilience and reconciliation, two essential pillars upon which our bonds could be forged anew. As the evening stretched into the night, we continued talking, sharing stories and hopes for the future. Grandpa's voice grew softer, laced with the wisdom of someone who's weathered many seasons, and yet never jaded by the rains. By the time we bid each other good night, my heart felt lighter, buoyed by newfound clarity. The path ahead wasn't straightforward, yet the destination, whatever it may be, felt worth the pursuit. I spent the next day helping Grandpa with the garden, a task so mundane yet so richly rewarding. As we worked side by side, it was less about the labor and more about reaping the rewards of togetherness, the magic of simple moments. Standing in the garden that afternoon, under a sky filled with scattered clouds glowing orange in the sunset, I made a silent promise to myself and to Grandpa to continue seeking the whispers that could transform our family's future and to cherish the stories woven between. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and remember to subscribe to Whispers of Glory, where stories of heart, hope, and healing come to life. Share your thoughts, subscribe, and be part of our journey as we unfold more tales of family and forgiveness. Returning to campus, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The conversations with Grandpa had grounded me, giving direction to the tumult of thoughts and decisions that clouded my mind. With exams approaching, it was comforting to know at least one part of my life was moving forward with clarity. Yet, the undercurrent of family issues simmered, waiting for resolution. Dad had reached out a few times, but our conversations remained superficial, strained. Despite the distance, I knew we were orbiting an inevitable confrontation. A confrontation that felt both daunting and necessary. In an effort to work towards understanding, I scheduled a meeting with the family lawyer. I needed more insight into the legal aspects of the estate that might help bridge the chasm between Dad and Grandpa. Stepping into the lawyer's office, I was greeted with a refreshing professionalism. Walls lined with leather-bound books and plaques exuded a sense of history and gravitas. "Logan, it's a pleasure finally meeting you," said Mr. Harrison, the lawyer, extending a firm handshake. "Your interest in the family estate is commendable. Your grandfather speaks highly of you." "It's a pleasure to meet you too," I replied sincerely, appreciating his warm demeanor. "I'm here to better understand the trust and estate details. I'm hoping this can help smooth things over between my dad and Grandpa." Mr. Harrison nodded, shuffling through a stack of documents. "Ah, the Carter family trust is indeed intricate. Your grandfather established it with the best intentions, providing a safety net through various contingencies in the trust's terms. Over the years, however, it seems to have caused more division than security, especially between generations." He elaborated on a complex matrix of investments, properties, and stipulations tied to the trust. It became evident to me how tangled and layered the family's financial landscape truly was. It was clear Grandpa had crafted something resilient, reflective of challenges past and a hopeful future. "Your father, Thomas, has always been a bit more pragmatic," Mr. Harrison continued, his tone diplomatic. "He sees the trust as an asset that could be maximized in today's economic climate. That's where the fundamental disagreements arise." I nodded, absorbing the information. "It's just so much to reconcile," I admitted, the sheer weight of responsibility tugging at me. "But I know it all stems from a place of care, even if expressed differently." Mr. Harrison regarded me thoughtfully. "Family matters are never just about assets, Logan. They're about legacy and identity. Perhaps being a bridge between your father and grandfather could mean reimagining what the estate could stand for, not just wealth, but to fulfill the dreams of both generations." His words lingered with me as I left his office, resonating with the many thoughts spinning in my head. This notion of reimagining, of creating cohesion rather than division, seemed almost a calling. Could forging this understanding truly heal the rift and unite my family, not just in name, but in purpose? Armed with knowledge and a budding plan, I reached out to both Dad and Grandpa, proposing a family meeting. My heart raced as I awaited their responses, hopeful yet uncertain. Surprisingly, Dad was the first to agree. "It's about time we had an honest conversation," he wrote, an acknowledgement of my efforts I didn't anticipate. Grandpa's response came soon after, brief but full of implicit trust. "Logan, wherever you lead, I'll follow," he texted, stirring a sense of determination in me. As the date for our meeting loomed closer, I felt the tides shifting. I wasn't entirely sure of what lay ahead, but I knew it was essential to walk this path, even if blindly, guided only by the whispers of hope. Every week, we invite you to join us on Whispers of Glory, where stories like Logan's unfold. Subscribe and become part of our community, where inspiration, hope, and healing are just a whisper away. And as always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The anticipation leading up to the family meeting was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. I spent the days leading up to it prepping, organizing my thoughts, and envisioning the best possible outcome. A family path forward free from lingering shadows of the past. On the appointed day, I arrived early at Grandpa's house, which we'd agreed would be neutral ground for our meeting. The farmhouse exuded a peaceful aura amid the rolling fields, its front porch a witness to countless tales stretched across generations. Grandpa welcomed me with a warm hug, and we sat together in his cozy living room, the ticking of the old grandfather clock a familiar calming presence. "You seem ready," he observed, his eyes twinkling with encouragement. "I hope so," I replied, nerves fluttering like birds in my chest. Beneath my calm exterior was a resolve to see the barriers of misunderstanding chipped away. Before long, Dad arrived. His demeanor carried an uncharacteristic humbleness. As he entered, he gazed around, nostalgia mixed with apprehension clouding his eyes. I couldn't help but wonder if echoes of his youth filled the silence. We settled around a large wooden table, its surface scuffed with signs of hearty family dinners and card games past. The air held both tension and potential, like the steady silence before a thunderstorm. "Dad, Grandpa," I began, feeling the weight of each word. I wanted us to come together today to find common ground. We've been facing in opposite directions for too long, and it's time to turn towards each other before it's too late. Grandpa nodded, a quiet understanding in his expression. Dad, though hesitant, murmured his agreement. The family trust, the estate, it's not just about money or assets, I continued. It's about us, the past, present, and future of the Carter family. Grandpa spoke then, his voice steady and sure. Thomas, my intention was never to bind you or Logan with expectations. I wanted to prepare for tomorrow, leaving this world knowing what we built could continue and be cherished. Dad took a moment before responding. I can see that now, he admitted, his tone earnest. When I started my journey, I strived to build something new, believing it was my turn to carve a path. He paused, an unspoken weight lingering. I feared disappointing you, and it led me astray, but I realize now that the walls between us were built with bricks of misunderstanding. Grandpa and Dad absorbed each other's words, the sincerity behind them beginning to chip away at the icy walls formed over decades. The conversation became heartfelt, rich with a shared desire to heal and move forward. We discussed potential paths for the family estate, ideas spanning preservation, innovation, and the possibility of new beginnings tethered by old, yet firm roots. A unanimous decision emerged, birthing the concept of a hybrid project, a mix of tradition with innovation, blending conservation and the new ideas Dad was enthusiastic about. By the end of the day, I felt awash with relief and pride. The whispers I'd followed had led us to a point where decisions once thought impossible were being made, bonds reforged with renewed strength. As the meeting drew to a close, Dad stood, tears glistening in his eyes. Thank you for bringing us together, he said, his voice choked with emotion. I've realized there are still so many stories to write, and I want us to write them together. Grandpa, too, rose from his seat. A new chapter, he mused, his voice full of hope, and a testament to the strength of this family. We embraced tightly, a circle that held within it the power of unity, of transformation through understanding. Thank you for being part of this journey with us on Whispers of Glory. If you found inspiration in these stories of connection and resilience, we invite you to subscribe and join us as we continue to explore the whispers that guide us to new beginnings. Share your insights and thoughts in the comments below. Your voices are the echoes that keep this community vibrant and alive. The days following our momentous family meeting were filled with a sense of tranquility and promise. The initial steps taken toward healing our family's divisions had set a new tone, one of unity and purpose that shaped our everyday interactions. With a newly forged alliance, we set about implementing the ideas discussed during our meeting. Dad and Grandpa began working closely together, channeling their combined expertise into drafting a comprehensive plan for the Carter family estate. Watching them collaborate was like witnessing the fusion of two worlds, tradition and innovation, both converging to create something truly unique. For the first time in years, Cedar Valley felt alive with the prospects of change. Word spread quickly among the town's residents, many of whom had known our family for generations. They were supportive, offering ideas, lending a hand, and sharing stories of how the Carter family had touched their lives over the years. The centerpiece of our new endeavor was a community center, a place where the wisdom of the past could meet the vibrancy of the present, welcoming people of all ages to engage, learn, and grow together. It represented Grandpa's wish for the estate to serve a greater purpose beyond wealth, and Dad's vision to harness the potential of our resources for communal benefit. I poured myself into the project, passionately driven by a renewed sense of purpose, my studies blending seamlessly with planning and organizing. My friends, Caitlin included, offered their support, excited to contribute their ideas and efforts. As the community center began to take shape, I often thought about the stories hidden in the walls of Grandpa's farmhouse, how every nook held a memory, lessons passed down, and dreams once dared. Together, Grandpa and Dad had agreed to convert a portion of the farmhouse into a multi-generational learning space, where past achievements could inspire future innovation. Grandpa, in his element, drew on his experiences, sharing tales of resilience and survival with the local youth who visited the site. His spirit of determination was infectious, sparking inspiration in those who listened. Simultaneously, Dad focused on the business side of things, leveraging his network to secure funding and support from partners who saw the value in the generational project. He often joked that Logan, the bridge, was the best investment he'd ever made. As weeks turned into months, the community center transformed from a blueprint to a living, breathing hub of activity. Workshops, cultural events, and educational programs filled its schedule. It was heartening to see the townspeople engage and embrace this new space as their own. One evening, as the three of us sat on Grandpa's porch, bathed in the soft glow of twilight, we reflected on the journey that brought us here. "It's amazing," Dad remarked, sipping on his cup of tea, "to think that not long ago this would have seemed impossible." "Improbable, maybe," Grandpa corrected with a playful glint in his eye, "but never impossible. Families can always find a way if they want it enough." I smiled at their banter, heart warmed by the easy familiarity that now flowed between them. It was in such moments I realized the true value of relationships, the patience required to nurture them, and the significance of taking the time to bridge the gaps wherever they appeared. As the stars emerged to paint the night, I felt profound gratitude for how far we'd come and anticipation for the journey ahead. By weaving our past into the fabric of the present, we'd charted a course for the future of the Carter legacy on our own terms. So to our cherished listeners and to all who follow along the paths of Whispers of Glory, thank you for joining us in celebrating stories of resilience, hope, and family. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to share your own stories and reflections in the comments below. Together, we amplify the whispers that connect and inspire us all. With the community center fully operational, life in Cedar Valley had taken on a vibrant new energy. The rhythms of daily life pulsed with vitality, as old friends and new faces alike filled its halls. In the months that followed, I balanced my time between school responsibilities and the increasing demands of the community project. While the workload was intense, my heart was full, buoyed by the knowledge that I was playing a part in something far greater than myself. One of the center's first major events was the annual Cedar Valley Festival, a celebration of the town's history, creativity, and people. It was the perfect opportunity for the community to showcase their talents, with art exhibits, performances, and workshops organized within the vibrant walls of the center. On the morning of the festival, the air was crisp with the promise of a perfect day. As I arrived early at the center, I found Dad and Grandpa already there, busy with last-minute preparations. "Logan," Dad shouted over the din of chatter and movement. "Perfect timing. We could use an extra pair of hands with the art display." I joined them in the main hall, where local artists were setting up their work. The buzz was infectious, a blend of bustling anticipation that echoed the spirit of the festival itself. Among the artists were students from the local high school, displaying paintings of Cedar Valley landscapes. Their art beautifully depicted the essence of the town, the lush fields, the old stone bridge, and the sweeping vistas of rolling hills. Grandpa wandered from painting to painting, his eyes full of admiration. "They've really captured the heart of this place," he said, nodding in approval. The festival kicked off with a lively parade that wound through the streets of Cedar Valley. I watched from the steps of the community center with Grandpa and Dad, waving at friends and neighbors as they marched past. The townspeople filled the streets, their laughter and cheers rising in a joyful crescendo. The day was a whirlwind of color and sound, with musicians playing folk tunes, children performing skits, and local storytellers recounting tales of Cedar Valley's storied past. As the sunlight began to wane, the celebration moved indoors for the festival's closing gala. The community center's main hall was transformed into a ballroom, decorated with twinkling lights and bouquets of wildflowers. Dressed in their finest attire, townsfolk gathered to celebrate the success of the festival and the community center itself. Toasts were made, stories shared, and a collective sense of pride filled the room. During the festivities, I was called upon to make a speech in honor of the center's inauguration. Standing before everyone, I took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of belonging. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady and clear. "Today we celebrate not just the center, but the heart and soul of Cedar Valley. This is a place where history meets the future, where generations come together to learn, grow, and create something beautiful. My gaze shifted to Dad and Grandpa, their faces lit with pride and warmth. None of this would be possible without the support and dedication of every single person in this room, I continued. Together, we've proven that anything is achievable when we listen to the whispers of our past and let them guide our future. The room erupted into applause, and I returned to my seat, my heart brimming with gratitude. The bonds forged among us, though challenged by adversity, had turned into the foundations upon which we'd built a community to be proud of. As the gala drew to a close, I danced with friends and family, moving to the rhythm of a life once divided but now whole. The music played on into the night, an echo of every laugh, every story, and every step taken together on this journey. Thank you for following along with Whispers of Glory, where stories of resilience, healing, and connection shine brightly. Don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting tales and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voices are the whispers that make our growing community come alive. The festival's success left a lasting glow over Cedar Valley, and the community center quickly became a beacon of shared purpose, a lively hub where old traditions met new ideas. With each passing day, I heard countless stories of newfound friendships, collaborations, and personal growth taking root, nourished by the supportive environment fostered within its walls. Our next goal was to expand the educational programs offered at the center. Dad leveraged his business connections to reach out to universities and cultural institutions, drawing in guest lecturers and partnering with organizations eager to contribute to our mission. Caitlin, ever the enthusiastic partner, rallied a group of university peers to volunteer their skills, helping to organize workshops on art, technology, and sustainable development. It was gratifying to see the younger generation taking initiative, driven by the desire to leave a meaningful impact. Meanwhile, I found myself growing closer to both Dad and Grandpa. The trust we rebuilt manifested into shared undertakings, dinners filled with laughter and discussions, and a mutual camaraderie that slowly replaced years of silence. One evening, after a particularly fulfilling day at the center, Grandpa and I sat together on the farmhouse porch, surrounded by the serenity of the night. "You've done good, Logan," Grandpa remarked, breaking the comfortable silence between us. "Your vision helped bring about something extraordinary, something I never imagined would be possible." I shook my head modestly. "I couldn't have done it without you and Dad, and everyone else who came together," I replied, the weight of gratitude filling my heart. "I'm proud," Grandpa continued, his voice soft yet undeniably strong. "Not just of the center, but the person you've become. It seems my stories didn't fall on deaf ears after all." We shared a moment of quiet reflection, the warmth of his words resonating in my soul. His stories, once echoes of the past, had indeed paved the path to the present, instilling in me values that extended beyond simple words. Across town, Dad took to hosting events at the center that focused on business acumen and leadership, encouraging dialogue between aspiring entrepreneurs and seasoned professionals. His influence brought in new opportunities and potential ventures for the town. Watching both father and grandfather, two men separated by years and differing perspectives, now woven together in common cause, was a testament to what family could achieve when unified. As we approached the anniversary of the community center's opening, our plans culminated in a grand celebration, one that mirrored the very first festival, but held more personal resonance. At the celebration, people reminisced about how far we had come in just a year, sharing experiences that underscored the power of community and collaboration. The celebration highlighted yet again that our unique blend of tradition and innovation was what truly set this space apart. The evening culminated in a series of speeches, a montage of memories captured over the past year. Fellow Cedar Valley residents, friends, and even newcomers took the stage, their words united by a common thread of hope, aspiration, and belonging. As I stood beside Dad and Grandpa, the flickering lights above us casting a mellow glow, I realized that our journey was more than just mending fences and establishing legacies. It was about forging a new path one step at a time, and finding peace within ourselves along the way. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining Whispers of Glory in celebrating stories that illuminate the resilience of the human spirit. Subscribe, comment, and share your own stories, as together we listen to the whispers that light the way forward. The anniversary celebration of the community center had a ripple effect, sparking momentum that carried us into the next phase of development. Plans were laid for more comprehensive educational programs, and new partnerships blossomed as interest in our burgeoning little project spread beyond the boundaries of Cedar Valley. Grandpa and Dad, once worlds apart, were now frequent collaborators, each holding respect for the other's unique strengths. Their synergy had become a source of pride, not just for our family, but for the community that watched this unfolding transformation. As for me, I balanced the responsibilities of my final year at university with the commitments I'd taken on at home. Yet, every visit back to Cedar Valley invigorated me, connecting me with an evolving tapestry of possibilities. During one weekend visit, I had an idea that could blend our rich family history with our forward-thinking initiatives. A digital archive, a living chronicle of Cedar Valley's and the Carter family's journey, capturing stories, photographs, and artworks contributed by locals. Excited by the potential, I pitched the idea to Grandpa and Dad over dinner, their expressions turning from curiosity to intrigue as I explained how this archive would preserve our heritage, providing a platform for future generations to engage with our shared history. "It sounds like a modern-day legacy," Dad remarked, nodding in approval. "This could be an invaluable resource for the community, an anchor that ties the past to what's to come." Grandpa added thoughtfully, "It'll give our stories a chance to live on, shared across generations, much like the way you've shared so many of my tales, Logan." Energized by their support, I delved into research, reaching out to tech-savvy classmates and professionals who specialized in digital humanities. With their help, I began constructing the framework for what would become Cedar Valley's digital archive. Slowly, it took shape, a vibrant mosaic of multimedia content chronicling everything from oral histories and personal memoirs to photographs of family heirlooms, capturing the spirit of our community. It was a project that exemplified the coalitions formed, brought by unity in the essence of shared purpose. The archive's unveiling was set to be the highlight of our annual Harvest Festival, another first for Cedar Valley and a testament to how much the community had evolved. As the festival approached, the air throbbed with anticipation. Residents, young and old, gathered to witness the digital debut of our town's vibrant tapestry, encapsulated within the digital realm. On the night of the unveiling, the community center was abuzz with excitement. People gathered around large screens displaying snippets from the archive, photos that spanned generations, audio clips of cherished family stories, and videos capturing the beauty and resilience unique to Cedar Valley. The reactions were overwhelmingly positive, people laughing, reminiscing, and sharing anecdotes sparked by the glimpses of our collective history. It was a celebration of identity as much as it was a demonstration of how far we'd come. Grandpa watched with pride, his legacy now digitized, guaranteeing that tales of perseverance and resilience would inspire generations far beyond his own lifetime. Dad mingled with guests, his connections proving invaluable in ensuring the project's sustainability and future expansion. As I stood amidst a sea of smiling faces, I knew the real success of the archive wasn't just in its content. It was in the bonds it strengthened, the connections it fostered across time and space. That night, beneath the starlit sky of Cedar Valley, I realized that our stories, much like whispers in the wind, had the power to transcend the boundaries of time, uniting people through shared narratives that spoke more than words ever could. If you're inspired by these stories of resilience, collaboration, and innovation, be sure to subscribe to Whispers of Glory. Join our community of storytellers and share your reflections in the comments. Together we keep the whispers alive, across generations, beyond horizons. With the successful launch of the digital archive, Cedar Valley became a hub of communal pride and renewed connections. As the seasons changed, our community continued to thrive, nourished by a shared dream and the enduring legacy of collective storytelling. I found myself reflecting more deeply on the journey so far, how a fractured family had come together to articulate past grievances into tangible actions that bridged our diversity. The growth in both Grandpa and Dad was evident, their relationship blossoming in a way I once thought impossible. Back on campus, the excitement from Cedar Valley translated into spirited discussions with friends and mentors who had been following our progress from afar. I was eager to bring them into the fold, inviting them to explore the possibilities of community-inspired projects within their own spheres. Seated in a cozy cafe one chilly afternoon, Caitlin and I sipped on coffee, the atmosphere around us brimming with ideas. "I can't believe how much you've accomplished in such a short time," Caitlin remarked, her admiration palpable. "It's like you've breathed new life into your family's legacy." "It wasn't just me," I replied, grinning at her unwavering support. "It was everyone, including you. What started as whispers are now shouts that echo across generations." "Still," she insisted, "you were the glue that held it all together, Logan. You inspired people to believe in a vision beyond the pages of the past." Her words were a reminder of the journey I've undertaken, not just in bringing the project to life, but in discovering my own strengths and leadership capabilities along the way. As graduation approached, I considered my path ahead. Opportunity seemed everywhere, from continuing to develop community initiatives to pursuing passions in storytelling, lending voices to the voiceless, carrying forward the tales that unite us. Returning to Cedar Valley for our traditional family gathering, I felt the town's energy swell with each familiar sight. Golden fields under a warm sun, the gentle rustle of leaves caught on a breeze. Each time I came home, the place seemed richer, its stories deeply embedded within its landscapes. Our gathering was more than just a family reunion. It was an acknowledgement of how far we'd traveled from that moment on Grandpa's porch, where the first whispers of change took root. That evening, around the campfire, we shared stories both old and new, savoring moments of laughter, learning, and love. As the fire crackled and faded into embers, Grandpa turned to us all, his eyes reflecting the playful dance of flames. "You know, when you're young, it's easy to think life is just about what's ahead. But the older I get, the more I realize every step we take leaves a mark." His voice, steady yet contemplative, punctuated the night air. "Logan, you've shown us that those marks, whether error or triumph, are part of the paths that bind us as family." I nodded, his words resonating with a truth I'd come to cherish. Legacy wasn't just a story passed down, it was a legacy lived through every shared moment, every step towards understanding. In the quiet reflection of that night, I understood that the real gift of this journey wasn't simply a healed family, but the realization that our whispers, both silent and spoken, would shape our identities far into the future. Thank you for being part of Whispers of Glory. Subscribe, leave your comments, and join us on our ongoing quest to explore stories that speak to the heart, the whispers that transform lives. Every voice matters in our growing family of storytellers. The warmth of the family gathering lingered with me as I returned to campus, a fresh chapter of my life unfolding with graduation on the horizon. I felt a deep sense of fulfillment that came from knowing our family story was no longer confined to the past, but had become a living testament to resilience and growth. As my final university days passed, I found time to reflect on what had been accomplished and what lay ahead. The digital archive project continued to expand, an ongoing collaboration capturing narratives that enriched our communal tapestry. Above all, it wasn't about the tangible success measured by achievements, but the intangible bonds forged and strengthened, the unwavering connections we'd cultivated across distances and generations. My friends and I often discussed future plans. Caitlin, ever the loyal companion, had become an integral part of our Cedar Valley project, enlivening the center with her vibrant personality and innovative ideas. "Whatever you choose to do next, Logan," she said on the eve of our graduation, "I have no doubt you'll carry the spirit of Cedar Valley with you wherever you go." Her words held a promise of potential, both daunting and exhilarating. Inspired, I made commitments to myself that no matter where life took me, I'd continue to celebrate stories that mattered, nurturing connections fortified by understanding and empathy. Graduation day arrived with the world at my feet, a vast sea of possibilities awaiting discoveries. My family watched proudly from the audience, the culmination of our shared journey shining brightly in their eyes. The ceremony was poignant, a ritual marking both an end and a beginning. As I crossed the stage to receive my diploma, The applause and cheers felt like the resounding echoes of our family's collective triumph. Back in Cedar Valley, the festivities resumed with a celebration at the community center. A full-circle homecoming, where old friends and newfound connections joined family for a day filled with gratitude and joy. We honored the past achievements while embracing future possibilities, with Grandpa, Dad, and I standing side by side, united in purpose and spirit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the town in a gentle glow, I realized just how far we'd come. Our personal triumphs were woven into the fabric of the community, the legacy alive in every step we'd taken. To new beginnings, I toasted at the night's end, my heart full of hope and anticipation. Grandpa raised his glass, a smile of legendary warmth softening his weathered features. And to the whispers that led us here, he added, his voice wrapping us all in a soothing, confident embrace. The years ahead promised their own challenges, but our lessons were clear. Our whispers, the stories and dreams handed from one generation to the next, carried the strength to light the way forward. To all who journeyed with us through Whispers of Glory, thank you for celebrating the enduring power of family, resilience, and storytelling. Subscribe, comment, and continue sharing your stories, as together we listen for the whispers that guide our paths and forge our futures.